So now we're going to be talking about some Rick and Morty season 4. I don't always want to do the overall, but overall, what did you think about season 4?
Interesting, man.
Yeah.
How they were able to, like, I think the best way I could describe season 4 would be a rubber band.
Interesting. Okay.
So season 4 starts, and it's like, oh, ha ha ha, in the comic sense, this is typical Rick and Morty, ha ha ha. It's they're making fun of everyone,
right.
But there's also touching moments still, and then you go towards the middle to the end of so far, which I'm sure that there's going to be more of season 4, but what they've done as far as 10 episodes here, it's you've got towards the middle and going towards the end, it's like, okay, wow, they're getting really complex. Like the whole the whole time train thing, like the story train is a big example of that. But then you end it with the very last episode, and it's one of those, it's like a reminder of, oh, right, they have continuity from the very beginning. And it's like they're bringing up stuff like a touching, touching in terms of like it's kind of it's sad. Like the last episode, the Star, what is it called? Star Mort,
Return of Jerry.
Return of the Jerry. It's the same Rick and Morty, but it's very similar to the Szechuan episode. I don't remember.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
where it's like it's overarching story. Like it's not just an anthology, which a lot of the episodes seem like.
Right.
It did things, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It was a crazy season.
Yeah. See, me, I think I didn't start watching it until after episode 5 came out. And so then I kind of binged all 5 episodes.
I binged them too. That's how I watched them.
I binged all 5 episodes. And the first time I watched them, it was just kind of like, yeah, they're good, but I don't know. But then on the second time I watched them, I'm like, okay, this is really good. And then the third and the fourth and the 5th time I rewatched them all, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I love this show. I just love this show. Perfect example. I rewatched it probably 6 times by now. And it's just because I just keep rewatching it over and over again. There is quite literally no show that I have ever done that for. I've rewatched Friends probably just as much time, but that's because that's something I can watch with my wife versus this being something I kind of have to watch on my own. I can watch it with my daughter, Zoe-Ann, and she enjoys it or whatever, but for the most part, I kind of have to just watch it on my own time. So for me to rewatch something that much, it's just unheard of for somebody like me. Because it's just usually I like to watch it and then maybe rewatch it when the next season's about to come out. But yeah, I can't stop rewatching it. So the first, I could kind of agree with you where towards the middle is just kind of like, eh. But then rewatching it and then kind of seeing the behind the scenes and the reason they made their decisions started to really make sense on, oh, okay, this is a commentary on this is a commentary on that. And so I started like appreciating them more as kind of time went on. Not only that, but like I think what makes Rick and Morty overall, not just season 4, so rewatchable is just all the details. Like you said, like the you actually have smart people working on these shows where there's sometimes they'll do a callback and like unless you're like really paying attention you don't realize like the one to season or episode 1, he's like, I thought I axed this program a couple seasons ago. So one, that's a reference to a couple seasons ago, but then his word choice was he axed it because he quite literally axed all the bodies or whatever. I thought that was hilarious, but I didn't catch it the first time. And so, I don't know. It's little things like that. So let's go. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can agree with what you were talking about the rewatchability. I've only watched most of them twice because I had to rewatch from the beginning. But I can easily say that this season in particular, I am more likely to rewatch front to back than I am any other season.
So, I mean, if we had to rank them, let's just, I know this is on the spot, but if we had to rank them, what would we rank the seasons so far?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 1 I mean, honestly, right now, I think I'm really going to have to say season 4 is at the top. I think it's some of the best that they've made. Um, I think this is one of my favorite seasons. If we're going to rank it, this is what I would say. I would go season 4, season 2.
Okay.
And then, that one's hard. I think I'm going to go 1 and then 3.
Okay. I think I would go, right now, I'd probably go 4, 1, 3, 2 for me.
Okay.
I really like season 3 because it was a little bit more serialized, which is like season 4 was essentially a response to all the people who complained about, oh, it's too serialized now or whatever, even though the reason they made it serialized is because people asked them to make it serialized. So then they're like, fine, I guess we won't make it serialized. And so there's so much commentary in here. Like, perfect example, the train episode is essentially like, this is what a writer's room is like on this show. But not only that, some of the episodes, let's get into it. Episode 1, Edge of Morty, Rick Die Repeat. What I loved about this entire episode is it was actually like a anecdote, I guess. Is that what I'm trying to say? It was not an anecdote. I guess it was a metaphor for like toxic fandoms, because there's a subset of Rick and Morty fans that use Rick and Morty as a way to idolize their fascist ways, and that's why most of the galaxies that he goes to are fascist, which just like, God, when did this come to default?
Yeah. And, you know, I love how the season is starting out with like a Morty antic. Like, it's not focusing on Rick. It's like, but it's one of those that I think it's probably one of the more creative ways they've put Morty in the driver's seat in an episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Just because it's not like, oh, geez, Rick and Morty, you know, it's like he has a purpose. Like,
yes,
he is driven, and it's not just like, oh, I'm a dumb kid, you know. So, and it's just, I mean, this is definitely one of those. It's like, okay, this is a great way to start the season because this episode's hilarious.
Not only that, but have we ever had an episode that was Morty driven? Because in most circumstances, the A plot is Rick and Morty, the B plot is like Summer or Jerry, and then maybe every once in a while there's a C plot. But I don't know if we've ever had, because we've had a Mom and Morty episode, but I don't know if we've ever had a Morty driven episode. And
I would say Rest and Relaxation, the one when
yeah, I guess so, but I would still say Rick and Morty kind of drive that together. Towards the end, Morty takes a little bit more front page. But
driver's seat is the reference I used.
Yeah. But still, I don't know. I would still say that's still pretty driven because they both have a toxic side to them and so on and so forth. So I would argue that it's not, but I could at least maybe see your point in that. But this is the first one that I feel like is 100% driven by Morty, and it came from like that moment he like kills Rick essentially was just like, oh, what the hell? And then just, you know, the whole time the hologram, I loved the hologram always making references is like, what do you mean I'm pretending to eat fried chicken? It's like, so when you eat cereal, you're pretending to eat? No, the chicken is real to me. And like, he always just kept making references like that. It was so hilarious because I mean, it's the exact same thing. If like, you know, you said something wrong around a feminist, or you said something wrong around, you know, any kind of group. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have singled out feminists, sorry. But I'm just saying, if you say something wrong in front of like any group and you didn't really mean it that way, you know, but, you know, they always tear you down or something like that. So that was nice. Episode 2, The Old Man in the Seat. I would actually have to say this is my least favorite episode because while it was interesting, it was kind of just like I don't know. This was kind of the most throwaway one for me.
Yeah. It was for me the first time that that I realized that they had something to say in this series or in this season. Like the fact that it's like, oh, Rick being Rick, and then at the very end, like the answers he was looking for, he didn't like the answers to, and it like anytime Rick reflects on what he's done in his actions, I enjoy, because it's something you don't see very often. But I can't agree with that. I mean, it's funny, and I like the adventure it puts you on. I honestly think though, throughout, the best part is the B plot, which I guess technically would be the A plot of Jerry and Taika Waititi creating that fucking love making app, or that love finding app, like that.
Right, because then the C plot is essentially Summer going around just falling in love with a bunch of people, and her mom like trying to stop it, and just the absolute ridiculousness of you're letting an app control your life. And that was kind of a metaphor, and I think that's what I like the most about this entire season, is just all the metaphors that they were kind of using to sort of talk about a certain message, but just also really make light of it. It's the same reason both me and you like Superstore. We love that show because they'll take up serious anecdotes or whatever, and they'll put a nice twist on them and just let you have fun with them, but at the same time it gets you talking, and then this one, it takes an app controlling your life and it makes it go to the absolute extreme, like to the point where like someone's bursting through a church with a freaking air balloon and shit. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. I would say that was the one time where I actually preferred the B plot over the A plot, because it was just so much more interesting than what was happening with Rick. And who knows, maybe that's what the writers were trying to do. They were trying to challenge themselves. What if we could make something more interesting than Rick? And I think that's what they did that episode. So episode 3 is probably maybe my second least favorite. I really like it. One cruise over the cruise Morty.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, when I saw this episode on first viewing, I was like, okay, this is funny. Like, okay. After watching it more than once, I'm like, okay, this is Rick and Morty being meta. Like, this is Rick and Morty being meta about them being meta. Like, and it's just kind of like, okay. Like, it just gets, like, I think the thing, repeated viewings on this, like, it gets worse and worse. Because it's like...
Which is very rare for this show, I think. Go on.
Yeah, because it just gets so tiring, because it's like trying to one-up with the one-up, the one-up, the one-up,
I programmed you to think that. I programmed you to think that. I programmed you to think that.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, guys, we get it. Come on, let's keep going. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's my least favorite of the season.
Yeah, okay.
Not far behind another one, which we'll get to shortly.
Yeah. I think it's really just the fact that, like, it had a message, and I felt like halfway through the episode, it had already made that message pretty clear. So the rest of the episode was just kind of filler, and I really didn't like that. I thought it was hilarious when all the people started heisting the heist con, and they like tore the guy in half and stuff, and I'm like, oh god. But it's like, I don't know, like, almost, it should have ended there, because then when they were like doing all this random stuff, Elon Tusk and like the blacksmith and the Valkyrie, like, it was very funny, and I think there was enough funny stuff going on that's why it's not my least favorite overall. But still, I don't know, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, definitely not in my top 20 episodes.
Yeah. Now, getting into one that just made me feel all kinds of odd, uncomfortable, weird, and turned on at the same time would have been episode 4.
Yeah, we fuck woolly mammoths.
Klon Hoarder Special Rickdom's Morty.
Shut the fuck up. You're the only one that fucks that thing. It's so outrageous. I think, I get why you don't like it, but the outrageousness of it is the reason why it's just so...
No, I love this episode.
Oh, okay.
Man, when they get into, like, with the deep dragon stuff, when it just gets more sexual and sexual, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like,
what about a quick hand bomb? He's like, no, you're embarrassing yourself.
And then, like, it's one of those... on this one, the B plot, the whole thing with Jerry and the talking cat, is like equally as absurd, but for a more simple reason.
Yeah,
and it's
we had a discussion about this But I was like, do you know who plays him? And you're like, no, not really. I'm like, that's Matthew Broderick. That's Matthew Broderick. I thought that was so freaking interesting. It wasn't until I think I was watching something on YouTube that it was Matthew freaking Broderick. And after hearing that, I'm like, of course! Like, it was so obvious after that. It's like, of course, that's Ferris freaking Bueller.
Yeah. It's one of those that I think I just said that twice in a row, so whatever. This is a funny episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it does rank up kind of high just because the absurdity is so out there, like just how sexual they got. And I think in particular that they just decided not to bleep out a bunch of things, or maybe just depending on where I watched it, but it was so uncensored. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh God, I just realized what your staff was. Oh man. Honestly, that's actually one where the first time I saw it in that whole like super uber sexualized part of it, I was just like, all right, this is kind of dumb or whatever. But then on repeated views, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of funny. I was watching the behind the scenes, and there was this misunderstanding because, there's a ton of different dragons or whatever, and just the amount of stuff that the animators have to go through is amazing. But in the notes, one of the directors or producers or whatever is like, a dragon with a whole bunch of shit all over it. And so she literally drew a dragon made out of feces, essentially. And so she gets it back to the producer, whatever. He's like, oh, no, I meant like trinkets and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit. Anyways, this one, next one, episode 5, Rattlestar Ricklactica. This is very close to my favorite one of the entire season because we're talking about absolutely balls to the wall ridiculousness. It's this episode. It takes, because obviously for the first 3 seasons they've made it very clear that like Rick doesn't like time travel. Yeah. And so with this one they just go balls to the wall time travel, and it's for the most ridiculous reason. It's like, oh, I got a flat. You got a flat in space? It's like, a snake bit me. What did I tell you? Literally anything can happen or I can't remember what he said, but it's just like the ridiculousness that not only did they get a flat in space, but a snake comes out of nowhere and just
I honestly think it's because I tried to watch this episode so many times and was either trying to watch it at night and accidentally fell asleep, or I just never got all the way through it. That like it, I don't know. Like, I agree with you how absurd it is, but something about it, I'm just like, like this is the other one that I was referencing. This is one of my like kind of second other ones of the season I'm just like about, but I think it just because of the circumstance, because there are like I do agree with what you're saying, like the whole flat tire thing does kill me. The whole or Morty is so worried about ruining a civilization that he makes it so much fucking worse.
Right, like the whole part where like Snake Hitler, he's making his speech, and then all of a sudden there's just so many snakes teleporting in, killing the other snake and then killing the other. There's so many that they're literally dead bodies piling out of the freaking balcony or whatever. It's just, why? So stupid. And it just had me rolling. All right, episode 6, Never Rick and Morty.
Oh,
this is the train one. And I want to say this one is... this one. I want to say this one is probably tied with Rattlestar Ricklactica as my like favorite one of the season, because it took the classic. It took the classic like interdimensional cable, and then in season 3 they did Morty's Mind Blowers. Yeah, and it kind of turned it on its head, and it's like, well, what if they were stuck in an anthology? Because that's kind of like an interesting thing. So it's like the way it starts and the way it progresses, it's so fucking kooky. It's definitely
one of my, I prefer this over interdimensional cable. I do. The the thing about this episode, I'm going through pictures like to remind me of scenes. The whole thing of them when they blew out the ticket taker, the conductor.
Whoa, ticket please guy is cut.
And And then in the real life, whatever it is, his like body's spinning up and just spitting blood everywhere.
Yeah, and then there's that one guy who's like, well, me and my friends say that me and my friends are under a belief that the bloody man is the creator of our universe, and we're all staying celibate because we believe that sex will destroy the universe. So they decide to do it, and that's when like Morty's shooting him in real life or whatever.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I didn't like is the fact of you don't really know what's real, what's not. Like, I mean, it really does blur the line, and it's not distinct what's what. And I mean, you're along for the ride, but that whole part with him spinning in the Family Fun Center, I was like, okay, so is that real life, or is that an anthology in an anthology? Like, what? You're getting really meta here, and I'm like, a little confused.
Well, and that's the point, because even like the part where they shoot the continuity, and they go into a training video. It's like, okay, what was wrong with here? It's like, no, he should have told him to drop it first. It's like, and then the one guy asks, he's like, wait, if they shot the continuity, then doesn't it mean that it's already happened or something like that? He's like, what? This is a training video. And then all of a sudden they just show up or whatever. Yeah. And I felt like that was the moment they kind of just really explained what was going on. It's like, I don't know what's happening. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. God, good one. Right. Another really good one. I definitely think the season the back end was really packed with good ones, because Pro Mortius was really interesting. Now, this is another one where I watched it the first time and I was just kind of like, yeah, it was good. I liked it. And it wasn't until the second time that I really appreciated the way they told the story. Because obviously they start it with Rick and Morty, and they go through their story and, 9/11 and Pearl Harbor and everything. Oh my God. And then all of a sudden there's the flashback where they show it from Summer's perspective. And at first I was just like, well, that was kind of stupid. But then I was like, okay, they did that on purpose, because they're showing all these quote unquote faceless, mindless, beings that just explode when they reproduce or whatever. And it's like, how stupid are like, and so they're just killing them just mercilessly. And then you go back in time to realize that, no, they used to just live for 30 minutes, and now they've actually created this society, the same society that they went through and killed a bunch of people in. So it was really interesting how they kind of like brought that up.
Very similar to the Purge episode from, I think, season 2.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they do very similar things, like with the power suits and everything. One of my favorite parts is when it's after the very beginning and they're at the table and they're talking about what happened. And Beth was like, why would it be between a 9/11 or a Pearl Harbor? Like, why are those your two
Why
options?
was that even an option, right? How were either of those an option? But yeah, it's just the way they did it. The way it turns out that like the face hugger on Rick's face and the face hugger on Morty's face like end up getting in love, and they're like making out. It's very uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's like if you look at them as just characters rather than Rick and Morty making out, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Now, was it this episode or was it Never Rick and Morty? I think it was Never Rick and Morty that had the like evil Morty pop up with.
Yep, yeah, because he was basically trying to suck out all the possible timelines out of them.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I
thought it was this one for some reason. But.
Yeah. Let's go. Episode 8, the Vat of Acid episode, which was a very misleading title because obviously the very beginning of it starts off in a vat of acid. And I literally thought the whole episode was going to be around that, but then they took it to a whole nother place. And let me know if you agree, but when we get the twist, and the twist is that he's been killing all these Mortys, this has to be one of the darkest thing that has ever happened. Not only that, but the darkest thing that Rick has ever done, because he did this knowing that Morty was gonna go and like change a bunch of things or whatever, and he just let him do it. Like, there's been some dark shit in this entire series, but this has to be like one of the darkest.
Yeah, I I would say the only thing I could compare it to as far as like that kind of episode would be the one, I think it was from season 1 when you meet evil Morty for the first time, whenever he's using all the Mortys to cover the dome of evil.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like, oh man, that's kind of fucked up. But
right.
I mean, yeah, this is one of those where you have a character attachment. You're like, wow, okay, Rick. Like, and then honestly, I think what's funny is the fact that they hit that so close together. Because these last 3 episodes, really, if you put them back to back, it's like, oh wow, Rick really is a shitty person.
Right.
And it makes you wonder if they did that on purpose.
For sure. I mean, towards the end, they really wanted to like show off just how much of a horrible. But that twist. It's like, yeah, you haven't been going back in time. You've been taking someone's spot in an alternate universe that happened to be at the same spot that you pressed the button or whatever. And I'm like,
yeah.
Like, not only that, but then showing it and how there's this melted Morty or whatever. It's just like, holy crap. Like, that stuck with me so much that I think I rewatched that one 2 times in a row, where usually I'll watch it and then I'll rewatch it like the next day. That time I had to rewatch it immediately because it disturbed me so much that it was just like,
Yeah.
Number 9, Tildrick of Mort. This one's probably number 3 of my least favorites, and it's not
okay.
It's not that it's bad. I like the whole God versus Rick and whole creationism and, you know, Rick and Beth working together because what happens in episode 10. So seeing them like work together just to have it completely turned on its head the next episode was really interesting. But I also I did like how there was a little bit of a focus on Jerry and how basically him going into the woods and camping, and you have all these like rejected people and him being like the king of them, and they even like put paint on them to mimic his shirt and stuff. It was really interesting. This definitely has good parts, and that's why it's only the 3rd least favorite, but still. So then episode 10, Star Mort Rick Turn of Jerry, of the Jerry. This one, I don't know, this one's probably my 3rd favorite, just overall, just because, like, you know, like, yeah, they bring back Phoenix Person. They bring back Tina, you know, and, like, this one's, I feel okay. Let me get my thoughts right here. This whole season has really just been classic Rick and Morty adventures. You know, sometimes we'll do things and then sometimes we won't. And then you know, that whole rant at the beginning of the first, or at the end of the first episode or whatever. It was really just, everything was just happening, and it was just like, here's an interesting idea, here's an interesting idea, here's an interesting idea. And then they end it on the most serialized version of the entire season, which is like, we're bringing everything, you know, full circle, and here we go. You wanted to know if Beth is a clone? Well, keep fucking wondering. You wanted to know what happened to Phoenix Person? Boom, here he is. And I mean, overall, I liked it. I like the pace of it. I love it. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's one of those episodes of Rick and Morty that I'm going to compare to Endgame. It's Rick and Morty. It's batshit crazy. There's a lot of crazy shit that is just happening for no reason. However, it's one of those that I trust whatever they're going to show me on screen right now. Mm-hmm. And like, I almost had a similar feeling like whenever I was watching Endgame, because they're telling like a story that we have wondered or have been, you know, like involved with since the very beginning. And so it's like, it's almost like a climax to that in a way, where it's like, you know, Bird Person coming back. That was gross. Bird Person coming back. The whole idea of, you know, hey, who is, you know, which one's the clone? Then the whole thing with, you know, here. Summer and Morty with the invisibility belt, like that, which was really great. And then they do give you a climax in a way of Rick whenever you see the scene of him watching the memory he blew out, and like him having the realization, holy shit, I'm a terrible father.
Right.
You know, like,
because the whole time was like, is she the clone or is the, you know, badass version the clone? And then we basically find out that he doesn't even fucking know because of how big of a piece of shit he is.
Yeah.
He literally created an extra clone so that he didn't have to make the decision. Because, yeah, we basically find out Beth told him to make the decision rather than her. Because, what was it, like, ABC's of Beth? He's like, do you want me to make you a clone? So he left the decision up to you. We flash back to that moment, and instead she makes him make the decision. And what does he choose? Not only to make a clone, but to not know which one's staying and which one's going. It was so fucked up.
And it's also hitting on Rick's ego, too. Like, the whole thing with the Federation going, like, hey, they realize if they don't mess with you, you're not a threat. And, like, he doesn't like that idea. So it's really, like, putting down Rick. But it's so interesting because that's what they did for the Rick Shank Redemption episode. And he came, they came back. You're like, you want to know what happens next. I mean, if this is any indication of what they're going to do going forward, I cannot wait for season 5. I'm hoping we get it soon.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, because it's a cartoon, so you don't necessarily have to have people together in a room to make it. As long as people have a sound system set up at their home, technically they could still be working on this as we speak. But yeah, we don't know for sure. So
yeah.
So I think my favorite Rick Star Rick Lactica. Which one's yours?
Of season 4, my favorite is. That's hard. I think my favorite is probably going to be either Star Mort or Never Ricking Morty. I really enjoyed Never Ricking Morty.
Yeah. All right, so what's your guys' favorites? That is the episode. We're going a little bit long, but that's okay. We're here with you guys. That's the first episode. How do you guys think about it? What do you guys think about it?